Have you noticed that the more you think, the less you belong, the more you feel, the more you scare people, the more you see, the more people, especially women, pull away? Carl Jung knew exactly what was going on. No, the problem was never that you talked too much. The problem is what you see, even when you're silent. Are you sure you want to continue? Because from here on, there's no turning back. While other men do everything to please, you just watch. While they smile to win, you remain silent, listening to what no one dares to say. While they memorize ready-made phrases, you ask questions that destroy the false peace of any environment. And women feel it. They feel it even before you open your mouth. They feel it in your gaze, in your presence, in your refusal to participate in the theater. They don't run away because you're cold. They run away because you're lucid. And in today's world, lucidity is the scariest thing a man can carry. You're not the kind of man who sends flowers to win someone over. You're the kind of man who asks, "Why do you need flowers to feel loved?" You're not the one who says good morning every day. You're the one who disappears for days, not for fun, but for sanity. You're not the one who promises the world. You're the one who offers the truth, raw, uncomfortable, and, because of that, unacceptable to many. Jung said that the conscious man is a social problem. He doesn't fit in, he doesn't dance to the music, he listens to the music, breaks down the chords, analyzes the lyrics, and then he decides if it's worth dancing. Have you ever noticed that your questions push people away, that your silence makes them uncomfortable, that your presence, without any effort, reveals what others struggle to hide? Don't kid yourself. You are not rejected for your lack of charisma. You are rejected for your lack of predictability. Because in a world where predictability is confused with security, you are a threat. And the more you understand this, the lonelier the path becomes. But here's the warning. If you decide to continue, you'll have to face everything that comes after. The loneliness, the silence, the social rejection, the guilt of being who you are. Jung would call this the shadow crossing, that moment when man realizes that his own consciousness is the greatest danger, not to him, but for everyone who lives asleep. Are you sure? You're ready? Because the next step is the beginning of a journey of no return, where every glance, every gesture, every lack of response will transform you into something that most people simply cannot handle. Carl Jung knew that the world is afraid of conscious men, not because they are violent, but because they are unpredictable. They don't shout. They don't argue about anything. They don't react like emotional puppets. They observe, they reflect, and they act only when they decide it's worth it. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. 1. The weight of silence. Jung said that silence is a weapon, one of the most lethal. While others need to fill the air with words, you remain silent. And that silence is uncomfortable. It forces the other person to face themselves, to listen to their own internal noises, to realize how uncomfortable they are in their own skin. She asks what you're thinking, but what she really fears is what you're seeing. She smiles, but she knows that you are analyzing her, that behind your calm eyes, there is a mind mapping every expression, every hesitation, every subtle lie, and that makes her retreat. Because the silence of a lucid man is never empty. It is a mirror, and few people can bear to truly look at themselves. Disper 2. Aversion to superficiality. Jung understood that intelligent men have an emotional allergy to superficiality. They don't know how to feign interest in trivial conversations. They don't know how to force laughter. They don't know how to play social games. just to be accepted. And women, notice this. While other people live in search of approval, you live in search of meaning. She talks about what's trendy. You ask her what she fears. She compliments you to please you. You question the intention behind the compliment. And before she realizes it, she's already uncomfortable. Not because you're cruel, but because you are real. And in this world, where the rule is to hide your pain, being real is an act of rebellion. 3. Rebellion against external validation. Jung saw it clearly. The conscious man does not need to be chosen to feel valid. While most people live chasing approval, you walk in the opposite direction. Does she disappear? You don't chase after her. Does she play games? You don't play games. Does she test your limits? You just observe and decide if it's worth staying. This dismantles her because she is used to men who beg for attention, men who do everything to be seen, men who mold their personalities just to please. But you, no. You remain true to who you are, and that scares her, because what she fears most is a man who cannot be controlled emotionally. 4. The look that sees beyond the mask. Jung knew that the gaze of an awakened man is an emotional scalpel. While others see smiles, you see wounds. While others are enchanted by beauty, you perceive the insecurity hidden behind the emotional makeup. She can try to hide it. She can try to manipulate. She can try to put on an act. But you see, you always see. And that is unbearable for someone who lives on appearances. She realizes that, with you, there is no way to hide. That any lie, no matter how small, will be read. That any omission will be noticed. And before the truth hurts, she runs away. She runs into the arms of someone easier, someone who prefers the comfort of illusion to the brutality of clarity. 5. The refusal to be a social character. Jung warned, society trains men to be characters, the protector, the provider, the clown, the romantic, the pleaser. But you don't play any of these roles. You don't accept labels. You don't accept molds. You don't accept being cast in a role you never asked for. And this refusal makes you a stranger. She expects a man who will chase after her. You watch. She expects a man who will justify every silence. You offer more silence. She expects a man who accepts the emotional game. You dismantle the board. And when she realizes that you won't give in, that you won't lower your standards, that you won't negotiate your very essence, she does what most people do when faced with something they can't control. She runs away, not out of malice, but out of instinct, because the conscious man is not a safe haven for those who still live in the wreckage of their own unconsciousness. And Jung knew this from the beginning. Carl Jung called it the price of individuation, the price of becoming who you really are, without masks, without concessions, without bending in the face of fear of rejection. And maybe now you're starting to understand the reason for the distance, the silence that comes after the first conversations, that change in tone, that sudden disappearance, that lame excuse. She is not running away from your lack of affection. She is running away from what you awaken in her. 6. The fear of emotional exposure. Jung said that a man's consciousness is like a light, and light reveals. It shows what was hidden. It exposes what was denied. She may even smile on the outside, but on the inside, she is already creating distance. Because being with you is like standing in front of a mirror that doesn't forgive. She feels that every empty word, every attempt at manipulation, every automatic gesture will be noticed. She feels that with you, there is no way to perform, and most are not ready for this emotional nakedness. That's why she runs away before she feels too exposed, before you see everything that she herself cannot face. 7. The threat to the emotional reward system. Jung saw the game that few dare to name, the invisible system, where compliments are currency, attention is reward, and neediness is a tool of control. And you don't play that game. She smiles, you watch. She compliments, you question. She creates expectations. You dismantle them with a simple absence. You don't give her what she expects. You give her what she needs. And that is not comfortable, because the instant validation system, where many men live, simply does not work with you. She tries the same triggers that have always worked, but with you, everything fails, and what comes next is predictable. Withdrawal, blocking, silence. Because you don't reinforce the cycle that feeds vanity, you break it. 8. The danger of those who don't let themselves be manipulated. Jung warned, the man who cannot be manipulated is seen as insensitive. You don't react to fabricated crises. You don't rush to resolve unnecessary dramas. You don't give in to emotional blackmail. She says she's leaving. You just open the door. She plays jealous games. You just smile. She creates a problem. You just watch and choose whether it's worth responding. And this attitude dismantles the script she has learned throughout her entire life. The script where she always had emotional control. The script where men have always been predictable. With you, no. With you, she never knows what comes next. And the uncertainty is unbearable for someone who has always been the scriptwriter of her own relationships. 9. Incompatibility with those who still live on the surface. Jung saw reality with surgical coldness. The conscious man is incompatible with those who still live on the surface. She may even find you interesting at first. She may even be charmed by your intelligence, by your depth, by your attentive gaze. But when she realizes that you will not tolerate superficialities, that you will not accept games, that you will not settle for emotional crumbs, she chooses the easy way out, distancing herself. Because staying would mean growing, it would mean evolving, it would mean leaving the comfort zone, and not everyone is willing to do that. 10. Loneliness as a natural consequence. Jung said that the journey of the conscious man is marked by loneliness. And no, it's not because you're difficult. It's because you're too clear, too intense, too honest. And most people still prefer the comfort of lies. You will enter environments and feel people's eyes averting. You will connect with people and notice them gradually distancing themselves. You will offer your presence and receive silence. But don't confuse this with failure. It's a sign that you are leaving the dance of the blind. So far, how are you feeling? If you want, tell me in the comments. Because your story may be the sign that someone needs right now. Carl Jung always knew that emotional freedom comes at a high price, and maybe now you're starting to feel that price firsthand. People don't run away from you by chance. They run away because you are a living reminder of everything they avoid facing. You are the mirror that they spend their entire lives trying to avoid. 11. The inertia of social comfort. Jung said that human beings, above all else, seek comfort. Even if that comfort is a lie. Most people want predictability. They want easy answers. They want the illusion of control. And you offer the opposite. You offer questions. You offer reflection. You offer the discomfort of looking inward. While she waits for ready-made phrases, you give her questions. While she wants validation, you offer silence. While she asks for promises, you deliver uncomfortable truths. And in today's world, where emotional anesthesia is the most widely used drug, you are abstinence. 12. The collapse of emotional performance. Jung understood that most relationships are a play, well-defined roles, predictable scenarios, rehearsed endings. She learned to be the muse, the enigmatic one, the unattainable one. But you don't let her act. You cut the script in the middle of the scene. You refuse the prepared dialogue. You interrupt the dramatic soundtrack. And she loses herself. Because without the script, she doesn't know who she is, and your lack of reaction is the empty stage she fears most. She wanted to control the narrative, but you don't allow her to believe, even for a second, that she has that power over you. 13. The shadow of her own insecurity. Jung said that all repulsion is a projection. She's not running away from you. She's running away from what you awaken in her. The discomfort she feels is with herself. Because when she's with you, she can no longer ignore her own emptiness. She realizes that power games don't work, that the emotional weapons that always worked here are useless, and that dismantles her. She realizes that to be with you, she will have to be real. No filters, no manipulation, no performances. And not everyone is ready for that level of exposure. 14. The undeclared invitation to evolution. Jung saw relationships with others as an extension of the inner journey. Being with a lucid man is a silent invitation to evolve. You don't say it, but your presence demands it. It demands authenticity. It demands depth. It demands emotional responsibility. She knows that if she stays, she will have to grow. She will have to abandon old patterns. She will have to look at her own wounds. And growing hurts. It hurts more than any rejection. That's why she leaves. Not because you are difficult, but because you are the catalyst for the transformation she is not yet ready to experience. 15. The choice between conscious solitude and illusory companionship. Now, Jung presents you with the final choice. You can mold yourself. You can soften your intensity. You can pretend you don't see. You can accept the games just to have company. Or you can remain true to yourself, even if that means silent nights, uncomfortable glances, and the weight of being misunderstood. The truth is that the conscious man will never have crowds around him. But he will also never have doubts about who he is. You will lose people. You will scare some. You will be called cold, arrogant, distant. But inside you, there will be something that no collective applause can ever offer. Integrity. And that, Jung would say, is the only company that will never abandon you. Carl Jung would call this moment an inevitable rupture. That instant when a man stops running, stops giving in, stops trading his essence in exchange for acceptance. You've come this far, and now there's no turning back. Because after everything you've seen, after everything you've understood, trying to fit in again would be the worst form of betrayal, not to others, but to yourself. The price of lucidity will always be loneliness, but the reward is freedom. You weren't made to fit anyone's expectations. You weren't made to bend to the needs of others. You weren't made to be the character she expects, nor the hostage of your own emotions. You were made to be whole, even if that means being misunderstood, being avoided, being called arrogant, being accused of being cold. But inside you, there will be a different kind of silence, not the silence of someone who has been ignored, but the silence of someone who is finally at peace. She may come, she may not come, and none of this will distract you from who you are. Because true love is not built in your absence, but in the absolute presence of who you have become. Jung never promised applause at the end of the journey. He promised clarity, and clarity has never been a comfortable path, but it has always been the only real path. Now, Before you leave here, before you close this window, take a deep breath. Remember everything you've heard and everything you've felt. Because if you've made it to the end of this video, it's because you can no longer bear to live on the surface, like, if you're back. Comment if you're still on the path, and share with those who need to be saved from themselves. The world doesn't need more nice men. It needs men who are real, whole, conscious. And if you are, or are becoming one of them, welcome. Now, go. The path is yours.